Alright guys, so this is the entrance of the cave. In the early 1800s, there was a boy named Alpha Kinsey, and he's the one that found this place. He was starting some sheep for his family, and a group of them went astray, so we had to go find them. And he actually found them here, drinking out of a puddle of the ice water. So he ran home, and he told his parents, and his parents told their friends. And eventually, the city of Shoshone found out about it. They actually tried to make it a national monument a couple times, but none of them really worked out. And so instead, the government kind of confiscated this place, I guess you could say, just because at first everybody would come down in here and wouldn't really take very good care of it. At the very beginning here, when it was all free game, the entrance was only 14 inches long and 2 feet wide. And so what they actually ended up doing was they exploded this whole forest pile with dynamite. And by doing that, that let in a lot of warm air, melting down all of the ice inside. Whenever it was originally founded, it was completely filled with ice from top to bottom, and then we eventually melted it all down. But also at the same time, we collect ice out of here and harvest it for our ice boxes and our drinks and our food. Fun fact, Shoshone was the first place to have ice cold beer, and that drew lots of attention. It even made us famous for a little while. And now we are the drunkest county in Idaho, so go us.
Yeah. Their spirit in the cave then? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, unfortunately not.
Oh man, I don't want money back.
So now we're going through that door, so it's kept sealed to keep the ice.
It's a herd.
Yep. Yeah, these walls, this one and the one in the back of the cave, just keep it all insulated and basically just keep all the cold air. But what really makes this cave actually so cold or so unique are all the little airflows that start from the outside and then slowly come through these little cracks. It's kind of like a natural refrigerator, if that's the way you like to think about it. Or the way I kind of think about it is kind of like blowing off your food multiplied by a very large amount. Since these walls are so thick, about 50 to 70 feet, it gives those little airflows lots of time to cool down as they come all the way through. And since these cracks are so small, it takes a lot of work to come into here, and that cools them off also. And then we get all of our water from snowmelt. They start from the surface and then slowly drip down through their own separate cracks, and then it comes into here and it'll all freeze, and that's how we have our Shoshone Ice Cave. But do we have any questions here?
You say there's two entrances then, one at each end, or what?
No, this is the only entrance,
Oh, okay.
but there is another one in the back. Alright, let's head down to the cave.
If this wasn't sealed off, then this ice bubble.
Right, look. Our bodies will be preserved. Yeah. So my organs.
Oh, and you could come back in like a few years and break
It's like a
the ice.
cryogenic freezer, so I'll just be like saved.
Do you want me to come get you after this?
Sure. After the apocalypse, come get me. A little bit of a lip right there.
Oh yeah. These rocks are vicious.
Oxygen, and it's really smoky. We're closing at around 3, depending on how busy we are.
Is this black pipe for air or water or what?
So this black pipe right here is actually to suck water out of the cave, because if we would just let it go naturally, it would eventually just completely fill up like we originally found it.
Interesting.
This has been altered right here. This is actually when you opened up the entrance, it sounded like.
Right. So a little bit of the dynamite did kind of, I'm pretty sure all of this right here is from the dynamite. But yeah, but everything past that is all natural.
I was in the audit too, Bend, Oregon.
High 20s, low 30s. What is that? 28, 29 degrees.
Is that where you're going to be frozen up? Just
It's summer. It's gonna get cold. bare bones. Oh, the bare necessity.
They're ice bare bones.
Okay. For copyright reasons, I did not just say that.
Alright guys, so right here we have some bare bones that were found in the back of the cave by Russell Robinson. This was a subspecies of the modern day grizzly bear, so she was quite a bit smaller than the ones that we have now, but we believe she came down in here for hibernation, and during this time she had 2 baby cubs. But the reason that we don't have the 2 skulls of them is because in 1970 there was an employee that stole them and they weren't ever recovered. But the only thing that does live down in here is some moss that grows under some of the rocks around her, and this is just because of the heat that the lights give off. Now we do believe that when she was trapped in here, she eventually died of starvation, but the only thing that does live down here, like I said, is just the moss, so there's no bats or snakes or any type of bugs. Pretty much anything that's big enough to prosper in here would be way too big to come through that wall. And anything that's small enough to come through some sort of little crack, it would just be way too cold for it. But do we have any questions here? Alright, let's continue. Yeah, this is ice. Now on the top here, there will be about an inch or 2 of water, but yeah, it's just a really solid ice.
Wow. Very smooth walled cave. Sorry. No, I'm keeping my distance. It's cool.
Yep, and I'll actually talk about it in just a minute.
Nice reflection.
Alright guys, so right here we're staying underneath what's called a pressure bell, and this is what happens whenever there's a lot of gases that have been trapped underneath the lava when it's all coming through. Basically the lava is what actually creates the gases, but then the gases try to push up out of the lava, but since there was about 50 to 70 feet above, these gases couldn't push all the way out, and instead it applied lots of pressure to the sides of the walls and the ceilings, and that's what smoothed it out so well to make this really cool archway or bell shape. And then right here we're saying about 5 to 7 feet of solid ice, and then in the back of the cave it gets to about 7 to 10.
So I could stand
But do we have any questions here?
Are you gonna leave that money down there forever? Or do you go down there once in a while, pick it up?
We pick up the dollar bills eventually, but we just leave all the coins in there though. So yeah. All right, let's continue.
Hmm.